In this next section, I want to explain a little bit of the mechanics and the structure and the science, really, if you like, of Wing Chun. The Tan Sao. Now, this was the first thing that we looked at. And Mark, would you just put a tan out for me, please? Just, yeah, I'll turn you around a little bit so we have this shape. Now, what we can see with the Tan Sao, just to give you an understanding of how this works, come forward to touch, is we're looking at triangles. Now, there's a triangle on the top here. There's a triangle underneath here, and if you hold both arms out straight, and we have an aerial shot of this, again we'd see another triangle. So if I was to try and hit Mark, and he just maintains that shape, then I'm going to be deflected off to the side. And it's not very much, you know, I'm not going greatly off to the side, but a miss is a miss, and it doesn't matter if that's a meter or a millimeter. So when we're looking at Tan Sao, the mentality behind this is going to be to deflect on the outside. So if I'm taking this path down the middle, I'm going to strike down here. The Tan Sao is going to move onto that path and deflect me off to the side. Combining that with the mentality of our square on punches, as he defends with the Tan Sao, he's going to turn with that. So if I come in with a punch, he turns with the Tan, which means his shoulders are square, so he can use the other hand to strike. So we can see both of these being used very simply, very effectively. And that triangular structure is one of the principles that continues all the way through the Wing Chun system as we teach it and as we kind of build that in stages for you. Now, if you think the Tan Sao is strange, you want to see the stance. Can you open your stance for me? Because this is another thing that we use a lot through Wing Chun. And your basic stance here is called Yi Ji Kim Yun Ma. Yi Ji Kim Yun Ma is your character 2 adduction stance. And again, it's all fanciful terminology that you don't need to remember now. But what I want to show you here is that triangles, we could see a triangle on the floor. We could see a triangle from his up his shins through his toes. We can see triangles at the back of his legs. The whole thing here being made of triangles. And again, in the same way as we have strength of structure, may I use you again for the tan? Thank you. We've got this strength of structure here, that if I was to hit against his arm here, this is going to be a very strong position. And it's not muscle that we're using on here. It's that bone alignment and that redirection. This helps us to have that strength. And this is also what we will learn and develop as we progress down through our stance. So if we have, can you put a leg forward for me and give me your hands? So if he starts pushing against me here, and I'm in my stance, push strong, he's pushing down through my stance. Now this actually becomes even easier if I stand on one leg with my leg locked and you push. Go for it. Go on, really push. Go on. Because what's happening there is we learn to redirect down through our stance. So again, size doesn't matter because what we're trying to do is redirect through our hands into our legs. The principle being that no person's arm is going to be as big as your leg. So that's what we're looking at. And incidentally, if it is, run. When we were showing you the punches before, some of you may be looking at this and thinking, that looks a little bit odd. You know, I can understand the principle of not having a favoured side and therefore you're going to train both sides equally. But why are we punching that way? Well, there's a few reasons for this, and it's good to kind of explain this right from the start, I believe. In the same way as, can I use you again, please, Mark? When we were looking at this Tan Sao, and I was saying about the strength of structure, I like to keep things simple as well, so it's easily understood. I mean, you know, if I was giving a seminar in Hong Kong, I might be saying that the energy, the impact of the energy here is transferred down through the dantian and the bad qi dispersed through the stance and all these wonderful magical things. But the truth is, it's that bone. Keep it really simple. It's about structure, it's about bone alignment and deflection. So this is how we're using the tan. Now that same power and structure is also what we get when we sit behind the punch. So without even going forwards, we have a very strong structure sitting behind. So this is why we have that shape. I'm going to give you another reason why we have that shape, or more importantly, why we don't have this shape. Now, if somebody's coming in with a punch this way, which we're kind of most familiar with, the idea of coming in like so, is that it takes muscle for me to lift this arm. So I'm going to engage this, I'm going to put tension in this before I've even started. It also lets my opponent know what I'm about to do. So I don't want to telegraph, I don't want to indicate what my intentions are. So lifting up here creates tension before I start driving forwards. If I relax, then the elbow drops. The relaxation then enables me to have the speed to drive forwards. So the more relaxed we are, the faster we are. So it's all right being big and strong, but the problem with this is that muscle is, you have, when we talk about muscles, you've got agonistic and antagonistic muscles. You've got your tricep, which is a pushing muscle, and we can think of the bicep as a pulling muscle. The stronger I am, the more tension I put in, the more I slow myself down. So we want to avoid all this. We don't need to be big and strong to do Wing Chun. In fact, quite the opposite. Being big and strong and powerful is going to hinder you. This is for the smaller, weaker person. So from there, relax is going to enable you to get that speed. When we look at a punch itself, there's a couple of things that we're going to look at. Mark, may I use you, please? When we look at this, the detail of the punch and the way we look at it, I'm going to give you the science of this, if I may, just briefly, because it does help to understand why things appear the way they do. In Wing Chun, it's very easy for someone to look at this and be a little bit cynical and sarcastic because it's got that silly stance. Well, why do we have the stance? Because it works all the muscle groups within your legs and gives you strong structure, strong foundation. Wing Chun is a form of Chinese boxing as well. Chinese boxing is a principle that means fast hands, strong legs. So that's why we have that silly looking stance. The tan tao that we have, the triangulation of this is going to give you immense structural power. Looking at the punch itself and connecting all this together, so we've looked at our base, we've looked at how we defend, now we're going to look at how we counter-attack. There's 3 ways that you can punch. The first one is where I do a big punch and I knock him flying back over a load of tables and chairs, and that looks great. That's your movie stuff. Very dramatic. Pretty much this is just a glorified fast push, because when you build a momentum, you create an energy. And if I push through, that energy continues through. So that is wasted force. There's another part to this as well, and that's if I come in with this big punch and he twists and moves out of the way, then I miss. I'm overcommitted. The Wing Chun man here can use both arms equally because he's square on. So I don't want to put myself in that bad shape, that bad position. The second type of punch would be where I go for the strike and I stop on contact. Now, even if he turns with this to try and move out the way, it's not going to matter because I'm stopping there anyway. So my next strike can still get in and in and in. But if I do that punch and remain tense, we share some of the impact. So again, we're emphasizing this relaxation. The fact that it is so unnecessary to have lots of muscle in order to be good at Wing Chun. The third type of punch is me relaxed, which means I'm going to be fast getting there. I'm going to brace for impact. I'm going to use energy, power on contact. And then as soon as I use it, I'm going to lose it. That means nothing will go through. Nothing will come back to me. Everything will be shared and dispersed within my opponent. So what we're basically trying to do is attack somebody from the inside out. This is where we use internal power. We're not trying to trade blows for blows. I'll give you a final little bit of science on this, if I may. And this is that the physics of this, you've got mass times velocity equals momentum. That's the mass. Whoosh, that's the velocity. That equals momentum. Energy is equal to change in rate of momentum. Now what that means is, if I drive a car at 30 miles an hour into a load of hay or bushes, no big deal, because I slow down 30, 20, 10, stop. If I drive that car 30 miles an hour into a brick wall, 30, stop. The impact is much greater because of the change of rate of momentum. Looking at those punches again briefly. The first one, I drive through, I'm driving my car through a bale of hay. The second one, I'm going to hit the wall, so it's going to have impact, but if I'm tense, I can share some of that impact because after contact, the tremor comes back through my arm. But the third one, if I relax, hit and relax again straight away, nothing will come back to me, nothing will go through him, everything will remain in him. So this is why we will always emphasize the relaxation of your Wing Chun. There's one last thing that I would say on the punches as well, which is an interesting thing that kind of connects us to why we need to keep relaxed, really. And that's your heart rate. And normally when we're all nice and comfortable and you're sat in a nice pleasant position, your heart rate can tick over at 86 beats per minute, 86 BPM. And at that stage, you've got perfect dexterity. You could write a letter, you could draw some fine detailed picture, you could sign your name with no problem at all. That's at 86 BPM. Now if somebody squares up to you and gets you in a genuine situation where this is now going to kick off and you're really concerned for your safety, then that heart rate can start to increase and go right up to 150 BPM. And at 150 beats per minute, this is when we start getting the shakes. And your hands are going to shake, your knees are wobbly, you're getting that rush of adrenaline, where you've got butterflies in your stomach, maybe you've got a dry mouth, and it's you're starting to feel really on edge. Now if I gave you that pen back and asked you to do that fine detailed drawing, that'd be very difficult, because again, we're starting to lose that dexterity. Now if we get to a point there where somebody pulls out a weapon or breaks a glass or bottle or something, and you're now in fear for your life, at this point, this is really, really scary. At that point, your heart rate can go up to 220 beats per minute. At that point, all dexterity is gone from your hands. There's no way that you would be able to do that drawing. You'd grab that pen with a fist. And this is one of the reasons why, when people that you might see in the street having a big barbaric swinging, fighting, it's not necessarily that that person is massively untrained and just wailing punches. What has happened there is that all the blood has gone from the unnecessary bits and gone to the major groups. And this is where your fight or flight mentality comes in. So you're going to do something about it or you're going to run. And in many ways, when people attack, that's where these punches are coming in. That's why it's a big swinging technique, because there's not really a lot more left available to them. Now in Wing Chun, if we're using our straight line principles and this nice relaxation mentality throughout our form training, we have which basically your forms are a set sequence of moves that you practice alone, at home, on your solo training. And the first of these is called Sulam Tao. Sulam Tao means little idea, because you think of only one thing. And it's like training meditation and focus and breathing. Now, when we're in that situation and you're in that life or death situation and you're really in fear for your safety, if you can just relax a little bit, harness that energy a little bit, focus to center a little bit. When that big punch comes in from the side, it's going to be very easy for you to just go straight forwards and continue down that path. So it's very important. You sprung at me like a cat then. I didn't even know you were going to strike. But that's the point, that when we are relaxed and focused, you will have that ability just to go straight forwards. So again, we don't need the big swinging techniques. This is what other people will do. And it's going to be actually our benefit, because the bigger technique and the bigger move I come in with, the more he's going to see it. And oddly enough, the easier sometimes that can be to defend. So keep relaxed. Don't work on the muscles. Don't worry about the high kicks. Again, Wing Chun is for everyone if you learn how to relax and use the techniques properly.